All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome all. Happy Revolution Day before it comes. 20 de November is just around the corner, but let's take advantage of the time we have to get ready and start practicing from this new unit. Now, this new unit focuses on modal verbs and reflexive pronouns. That's it. And I'll also open up a forum for you guys as well today. The goal of this one is really to, help you to talk about things that are obligations, recommendations, and you'll be able to do some more of your creative style and add some more things to the forum so you can practice some more. Now, in today's lesson, we're going to be able to practice with have to, should, and must. I'll also introduce some automodal verbs. You've seen some modal verbs. For example, the verb will is a modal verb. So you've been seeing it. So let's look at when and why we use modal verbs and some of their uses in general. Now, as is customary, we're going to be looking at, structure for these modal verbs, which you will find to be pretty simple. And we'll dive in a little deeper on some of the uses and do some practice. Okay, so modal verbs. I think everyone is in. Thank you for those who have started the register. Don't forget full name and group in the chat so we can keep a record of who is in attendance. Now, I'll share these with you afterwards. We have what we call two sets of key verbs in English outside of our stative or active or principal verbs. The two groups, the modal and the helping verbs, do a lot of work plus our verbs. So as you can tell, this particular section is about the verbs that are in addition to your action verbs. So let's start with you, Mariana. What are modal verbs? And I think we have two Marianas, so I should be specific. Mariana Arriaga Fuentes. Could you start for us? Read for us.
Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs that, unlike the auxiliary verbs be, do, and have, cannot function as principal verbs. Modal verbs express modality, ability, possibility, necessity, probability, obligation, or other condition. They are auxiliary verbs used for forming the future and conditional. As complementary verbs, modal verbs cannot function without other verbs. The principal verb is always found after the modal verb and in the base form. Modal verbs are not conjugated and have no tenses.
Good. Now, the modal verbs that we want to make sure you master are have to, which is an obligation, should, which is a suggestion, and must, which is an order. Those are the three ones that your unit is looking to focus on. But of course, we have a lot more. So let's look at some of the key modal verbs that you will encounter once practicing English. All right, let me let someone else in. And these are some of the modal verbs that you will encounter in our lesson. The modal verbs can and could. Notice she was talking about peers. You can also think of them in peers. Can and could, present and past, generally mean the same thing. May and might, present and past-ish. Might is not necessarily always past. More of appearing here as well. Will usually appears with would in terms of present and past, but in terms of use, they're a little bit different. Shall and should, present and past. Also, like will and would, not necessarily always the same meaning, but you can consider them past and present. And we also have ought to and must. They are basically the same, have to as well. They are big pushes. This is the order. This is the command, right? And the negative forms of these sometimes change the meaning, but in general, these are some of the most common modal verbs, right? So let's tackle them one by one. Eileen, can.
Can, meaning to, be able to, indicates ability or possibility. Examples: I can speak 5 languages. We can work late tonight if you need us.
Us, be careful
Us,
here.
us. Okay. Bill and Tom can't help you. The restaurant can be expensive if you drink a lot of wine.
Yeah, wine.
Wine. Okay.
And one more.
It can be dangerous to drive if you are tired.
Good. Now, when asking questions, you can use can for a little bit more if you want permission or if you want to know the possibilities. All right, so this is another way you can use can. Can I have a glass of water? Can you help me? Can they work late tonight? That's can, all right? On the flip side, we have the pairing of could, which is basically the past tense. Jose Eduardo, could.
Could, meaning past tense of can, indicates ability or possibility in the past. Examples: Joe could speak Spanish when he was young. I could sleep last night. Could you play an instrument when you were a child?
Child.
Could is also
Come back. Child. Be careful your pronunciation.
okay. Could you play an instrument when you were a child?
Good. Yes. Could is also
Uh,
used for possibilities like we saw with can, but more for possibilities in the future. Someone else is in the waiting room. Let me let them in. Let me see if anyone else is stuck there. And okay, good. And yes, we have examples like you could pass a test if you studied. We'll see this again when we do conditional forms. I think it could rain later, like we saw when we were talking previously with the other structures. Now, when it comes to questions forms, can and could do the same thing, which is why I was mentioning pairing. You can use them to ask for permission and possibilities, but could is formal. Can is informal. You use it between you and your friends, and could is formal. Use it with authority and older people, a little sign of respect. So, could you pass the salt, please? Could you help me? Could I be wrong? When we are going to those conditional forms, you'll see a little bit more of modals again. Of course, for conditionals, we'll see will and would a lot, but we can use other modals in conditionals. All right, let's continue with may. And I think that is Rafa. Yeah, Rafa, help us with May.
May, meaning used to indicate possibilities in the future. Examples: I will bring an umbrella. It may rain later. It may be better to finish this now, rather than wait until tomorrow.
Okay,
May is also used to give permission or instructions.
good.
You may leave if you like. You may use your cell phones now. In interrogative sentence, may is the most polite way to ask permissions, as opposed to can or could.
Good. Now notice may, even though it's present tense, is still a formal type approach, all right? And like the video was mentioned, it's your gentle voice as well. Now, when you're asking for things, can and could and may all do the same thing. The approach is you are requesting. So may I have a glass of water? May I leave now? Very formal, but also very gentle. All right. Might. Gustavo.
Meaning synonym of may indicates possibilities in the present or future. Examples: I will bring an umbrella. It might rain later.
Good. Let me scroll down.
It might be better to finish this now rather than wait until tomorrow. Might can also use can
Yeah.
also be used like may to ask permission, but this is much more common in British English than in American English.
Now, if you want to ask questions, you could go just like you did with may and say, might I? But it's not common, which is why you don't see a lot of examples here. Might I have your phone number? Very, very British, very irregular use. So not something that we'll practice together, but it's good to know. Next one, like I mentioned, will. Itself. Are you with us, Itself? And while we search for Itself, I only see some names. So don't forget to put your full name and groups in the
will.
chat.
Meaning use it to express willingness or consent. As we will see in later lessons, will is used to form the future tense. Example: I will help you.
Scroll down a second. There we go.
I will help you. We will learn English.
We learn English. Now, may and might, can and could, they were asking for permission. With will, you're asking for information, a favor, or an opinion. Will they find a cure for cancer? Will you help me move? Will he go to Paris by car or by train? You're getting information when the person answers those questions. Mariana Ramirez, shall.
Will express the
Okay, I think her internet or microphone. It's okay, Mariana. Alondra will help us with that one instead.
Shall. Many use like will to express the future. The use of shall is much more common in British English and is generally considered more polite. Example, Chris shall be happy to see you. I shall take the 3 o'clock train.
Good. Now, will and shall do the same thing. Inform. Notice how they behave when we're conjugating them. We use shall for offers or to make suggestions, to ask for opinions and references. However, as it's mentioned above, shall is no longer common. You might see it written, but you won't hear it spoken so much. So questions like, shall we meet at 10 p.m.? Shall we go to the movies or a museum is something that you'd probably hear 200 years ago. Not so much anymore. All right, I believe we have Josue. Josue, you're next.
Hi,
Should.
thank you. Meaning indicate a recommendation or obligation or reflects an opinion about what is right or correct. Examples. It should call my parents more often.
I should.
You shouldn't work so hard. They should practice more if they want to win the championships.
Good. Now, if we ask questions with should, we're looking for some sort of understanding of the rule. Is there a rule or there's no rule? Or you want a recommendation. All right, so should we leave a tip? And it's good to ask, particularly when you're traveling. If you're in Japan, no tip. If you were in America, yes tip. So it depends on where you are. So should is a very helpful word to find what the rule is. Should I buy the ticket here or should I buy it online? Should I? This helps us to get some understanding of the rules. Should I have the steak or the chicken? Where should they meet you? You want to know what's the best option. And these are what we call the suggestions that you're asking for, the opinions you're trying to get with should. All right? Next up, Yair, ought to.
Ought to, meaning synonyms of should, although it is less common. Examples: she ought to quit smoking. I ought to call my parents more often. They ought to work less.
Good. Just the same as should. They are exactly the same use, exactly the same in terms of their question form and their normal form. The big difference, however, that you should pay attention to is should does not have a to. Ought to has a to that you will use in your sentence. And it's also maybe a little bit less common as well. Leslie, must.
Must indicates an obligation, prohibition, when in the negative or necessity. It is a synonym of have to in affirmative sentences. Examples: you must have to read this book. It's fantastic. You must have to brush your teeth 2 times a day. We must have to leave now or we will be late. You must not drink and drive. When must we meet you?
Good. Now, if you think of have to, you probably think of possession. So be very careful. In the modal form, have to is the obligation. You have to go to classes on time, like your parents telling you the rule. You must turn off your electronic devices when the plane is taking off. That's the rule on the plane, right? So these are rule setters. Now, in question form, you're asking about the probability or the assumptions. And you are being very careful, particularly when it's still in the affirmative form. So John's not here, he must be sick. All right, 100%, we're not sure, but more than likely, 90, 80%, he must be sick because normally he's never misses class. It must be difficult to learn a new language as an adult. Not signs, but all of the signs show things are harder when you have more in your brain. And when you use must for questions, you don't really want someone to answer you. All right? Must you always be late? More satiric, more rhetorical. Must she talk so much? All right? You're not asking a question per se. You're kind of stating something through question form. Right? Let's look at would. Sophia?
Will, meaning past tense of will, indicates preference, desire, or intention. Examples: she would like to go to New York someday. I would like a beer. And my wife would like a glass of wine, please. Would you like some coffee? Would you like help me, please? When would you like to go to the movies?
Right? Just as we saw up above with the other modals, we can definitely use would in conditional sentences. Will and would are parts. Will we'll use for conditional one. You can also use it a little bit with others. With conditional one, you will use will. Conditional two and conditional three, you will use would. All right, and we saw when before. That's not a modal verb, but you will see it in conditional zero when we get to that part. All right, now you can always go back through the examples. Remember, the page has it in Spanish if you still feel like you need the extra help when it comes to explanation. So you can always go through the same explanations we were reading in Spanish, just to make sure you understand and have some sort of reflection point. Let's practice quickly with modals. And as you can tell, this is a part of a particular section. I'll go back up, because we do have some other words in English that are particularly useful. And if you haven't gone through the mechanics of this particular page, on the right-hand side, you usually can see where these verbs fall or where these topics fall in terms of your advancing in English. All right? Good. Before I jump into the exercise, remember our goal is to practice have to, should, and must. So I'll also be looking at those forms very specifically. We'll come back to these in a second, because one of the key things that you want to be able to master is the use of these three. All right? So I'll also share some more, but let's dive into the whole thing and then we'll get super specific. All right? So first, let's start with Mario. What should I use for this one?
Can. Can you help me?
Right. Number 2, Kike.
They will. What?
They would?
Sí, would.
¿Por qué?
Uh,
En modo sarcástico, sí. Pero, ¿qué está diciendo esa oración? ¿Qué entendiste de la oración?
mm, que está practicando, bueno, están practicando. Eh, ah,
¿Entendiste esta parte?
dice que ganaron como un campeonato, ¿no?
Ok. Aquí tus palabras claves vienen acá. If y tu verbo está en presente. Por eso te digo, sí, de una forma would puede estar ahí, como vimos con el must, cuando estás preguntando algo, pero muy retórico. Sí. Si pones aquí would, es como decir, pues deberían practicar si quieren ganar el campeonato. Pero aquí, yo creo que están buscando recomendación. Deberían practicar más si quieren ganar el campeonato. Y ahí vamos con
Oh,
should. Okay, practice.
okay. Yes.
They should.
They should practice more if they want to win the championship.
Perfect. All right, number 3, Paulina Tovar Mendez. Exactly. It is forbidden, against the rules. All right, let's go back to the beginning. I believe Ariaga Fuentes.
Must you
No.
always
Yes.
be late?
Must you always be late? Claro, no quieres que la persona contesta. Sí, siempre tengo que estar tarde. Es más retórico. Siempre que tienes que estar tarde. All right. Good eye. Next one, Aileen.
Podría ser ahí. ¿Me?
Okay. Sí, puedo ir, pero cuando hablas de tus gustos, me gustaría ir a Nueva York algún día. This is the form would. All right, let me see if I can show it to you. I would like to go to New York someday.
Okay.
All right, I think it was, let's see.
Creo que es la otra página, teacher. Oh.
No, it's here, just a little bit further back.
Okay.
Dun. Ought to, must, and after must, would. I would like, she would like. All right, and at the end, you can see the translations in Spanish. All right, good. And Rafa, number 6.
They do work less.
The what?
They ought to? How to work less?
Good. Yeah, your clue there was the to. It's the only modal verb that goes with the to, ought to. All right, all the others, you may work less, you should work less, you must work less, but ought to is the only one that goes with a to. All right, number 7, Jose Eduardo.
Sí. Podría ser shall.
It shall be dangerous. Okay. Shall. What do we say shall is for? Shall is like will, right? When we're looking at shall, we say shall is very similar to another one, right? We use it to offer and make suggestions, ask about opinions, and it behaves like will to express the future. Here, something is dangerous if you're tired. You don't have the ability to drive, right? So be careful. So here it says, it can be dangerous to drive if you are tired. Repeat.
It can be dangerous to drive if you are tired.
Good. All right. Number 8, question, Gustavo.
Podría ser might, no. Might be,
Right? Here the person is asking for an offer. They are moving and they want to know if tomorrow or the next day, will you help me?
Will you
Yeah.
help?
Again, will you help me move?
Will you help me move?
All right. And hopefully the person says, yes, I will help you. It's a spontaneous reaction. All right. Now let's do some more. I think. Dun, 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 dun. Ramirez, Mariana.
Megan can play both the piano and the guitar.
Yes, she has that ability. Good. Number 2, Alondra.
Start acting with me. I won't be late.
All right. Would be late would be more of talking about your likes. Here is a probability type statement. Empiezas a comer sin mí, tal vez voy a estar tarde. All right, to talk about those probabilities, and of course with a more softer touch, I might be late. It's possible that I will arrive late. All right, number 3. All right, hold on, let's just have you practice that again. Alondra, with might.
Start acting with me. I might be late.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, let's continue now with Josue, number 3.
Yeah. You must wear your helmet when riding your bike.
Or else you might crash and hurt yourself. Be careful. Yair, number 4.
Can you help me with my homework?
Exactly. Checking if is there a possibility? Do you have the ability to help? Good. Leslie?
I know it's difficult, but we will succeed.
Exactly. Talking about the future. Predicting without evidence. But yes. Number 6. Sophia?
That could look infected. You should
Infected.
infected. You should go to the doctor.
Good. Recommendation. Number 7. Mario?
I couldn't eat my dinner last night. My stomach hurt.
Yeah. Good. Something was affecting you, so you did not have the ability from the past. So seeing that it was last night, you have to use the past form. Good. All right. Enrique, number 8.
Must.
Must is a obligation. That's the rule. But here in the sentence is telling us something. There's a condition.
Oh,
All right. Since it's in the present, we can't use would. So he could be made. All right. Glenn may come with us if he finishes his work. Would come with us if he finished his work. All right. So I would go for may here. Glenn?
Lane may come with you to the movies if he finishes his work.
Right. So there's a condition to him coming with us. All right. Number 9. Paulina Tovar.
I would like to learn English someday.
All right, that gustaría phrasing. All right, good. And the last one, let's see who should get the last one. Let's go back to Rafa. Number 10, Rafa. Didn't have another choice.
We should break the window.
But it happened in the past. Tuvimos que. We had to. All right, again, we had to.
We had to break the window because we locked the keys inside the car.
All right. Now, those forms, and notice this is the past tense of the have form, they are a little tricky. So let's dive a little bit deeper in those two ones. First, must and have to. They seem like they're doing the same thing. So when do I choose must and when do I choose have to? We use must and have to in situations are more negative. And we use have to with with the rule. It's a strong rule. When we dive into it, we'll notice that one, like ought, have, always goes with its to, so it's always have to or had to. And we'll notice that with must, there's no to. So that's one way, if you're looking at it, you will notice how to use them. Now, had to, like we saw just now, is the past form of have to. We use it like this. One, the obligation is me. Or with have to, the obligation is on the other person believes it's true. We also use it when we're talking about prohibition. But when we go with the negative form of have to, there is no obligation, there's no necessity. All right? You're not going to do it because you don't have the need to do it. So notice how the negative form here is different from mustn't. Must do something is the rule. So the person is telling you this is the rule. And mustn't is telling you don't do it. That's against the rule. All right? Now, let's dive into some of how we use it. Jose Eduardo, have to and rules.
Rules and obligations. We use have to talk about rules and obligations, something that is necessary. I have to get to work before 7 tomorrow. The car broke down and we had to call a taxi.
Good. Eileen, must.
Must, rules and obligations. Must is very similar to have to. We use must more infinitive
Plus the infinitive.
to talk about rules and obligations. I must go to the doctor. I must get up early tomorrow.
Negative forms. Let's go to Paulina. Don't have to.
Don't have to. Don't need to, not necessary. If you don't have to do something, it means that you don't need to do something. There is no obligation. You can do it, but you don't need to do it if you don't want to do it. You don't have to pick me up at that station. I can take a taxi. You can pick me up, but you don't need to do it.
Good. And negative form, Josue.
Yeah, sorry. Prohibition. Use must to talk about something that you can't do. It's necessary that you don't do it. You mustn't call me before 8. You can sorry. You can't call me before 8.
Probably I'm
I
sleeping.
mustn't lose my concentration now.
Good. All right. Now, as we saw in the image, these are some of the big differences between the two. All right. I'll share this with you as well. And to go a little bit deeper into how we use all of those, I'll share this one. So there's a video and some exercises you can do. All right. Now, the goal of this particular unit is to dive deep into modals. So practice as much as you can. And if you have questions, do let me know. I'll see you next Saturday, and we'll do something super easy. We'll talk about reflexive. pronouns. All right. So until then, get busy, catch up if you're still behind on any of your other units, and let me know if you need any help. Until next time, take care.
See ya. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, teacher.
You're
See you.
welcome.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you. See you.
You're welcome.